Brookline Hub In Depth is presented by the 501c3 nonprofit BrooklineHub.com. BrooklineHub.com are the proud founders of the Brookline Youth Awards. Now in its 11th year, the Brookline Youth Awards is an opportunity for Brookline residents to hear about the character, challenges, and dreams of its young people, as well as adults, dedicated to their success through the power and intimacy of video interviews shown on the big screen at the Coolidge Corner Theatre. This year, the 11th Brookline Youth Awards will present Joslyn Vendola, Brookline High School teacher in the Excel program, with the 2021 Roger Grande Social Justice Award. Last week, our founder, Harvey Bravman, interviewed Joslyn from the stage of the Coolidge. What you're about to see is the full interview between Harvey and Joslyn. A 3-minute version will be seen at the 11th Brookline Youth Awards. The 11th Brookline Youth Awards can be viewed on March 8th at 7 p.m. on all Brookline Interactive Group and BrooklineHub.com channels.
My name is Joslyn Vendola.
What's your favorite thing to do? If tomorrow was like a perfect day and you got to do whatever you wanted, what would you be doing?
That would be a tough question. I would need to fill the day completely. I would spend time with family, hang out with my nieces, roller skate. I do a lot of roller skating and play roller derby in my free time, so I would make sure to get that into my day. But I think mostly, yeah, make sure that I get to see my family. Go to the beach.
Did you say you do roller derby in your free time?
I do, yes, yeah. I do play roller derby in my free time.
So you work on a team?
I am. I'm on the Boston Roller Derby League. I play for 2 teams in that league. And I've been playing for about 10 or so years. We haven't been playing during the pandemic, of course, but we're hoping to start up again soon.
Do you use your name Joslyn Vendola, or do you have like one of those, like, when I was a kid and I watched roller derby, they would have like names.
Yeah, so traditionally, skaters do have skating names that they use on the roster, or the announcers use them for the games. That's just been a part of the roller derby culture since it started many years ago. So my skating name is MC Slammer.
Awesome. Why are you called MC Slammer?
Well, it's a play on MC Hammer, and I was just a big fan of MC Hammer as a kid growing up, and so went with that. You have to have something different from other skaters in your league and in the area, so we all just kind of try and pick something that is meaningful or funny, or just it's kind of a shout out to whatever it is that your name is similar to.
Tell me, where are you from?
Well, I was born in Detroit, Michigan, but raised in Kittery Point, Maine. And then I've been living in the Boston area since I went to college at Wheaton College, and then I've been in the Newton, Brighton, Dedham area ever since.
Tell me, how did you come to Brookline, or how did you come to work in Brookline?
Well, I started teaching right out of college, but not at Brookline. I taught for 3 years at a collaborative school in Chelmsford, Massachusetts. And then about 13 years ago, I had started coaching at Brookline High School, coaching in the soccer program a year before I applied to teach there. And then I've been teaching there ever since.
Tell me, like, what subjects you teach,
So I teach math in a small alternative program, and I teach the grades from 9th grade through 12th grade. So I teach various levels of math classes.
And when you say alternative program, what does that mean?
So I teach in the Excel program. So the Excel program is a substantially separate special education program at Brookline High School, and I have been teaching there for 13 years.
So, and what makes teaching in the Excel program special for you? Is there a reason why you're in that program?
So it's a small program, which I love because it has sort of a family feel to it. You get to know your students really well, build close relationships with your students and your coworkers. And we've all been there for quite a while now. But I think that's the best part of teaching is really getting to know the students that you work with. So when we have fewer than 30 students in the program, you're able to just spend a lot more time with each one individually, get to know them really well, and get to know their families really well.
So, is there any other like sort of volunteer work that you did? Anything that would have led to like the last year?
So really not related volunteer work, no, but what led to the last year is just really about a month before the schools shut down. I was speaking with one of my coworkers, a social worker, Karen Kennedy at the high school, and just started to think about how the possibility of Brookline closing was going to impact many of my students, but many students that I don't work with directly, all of which do participate in the free and reduced lunch program in Brookline. So if schools closed, that would be an immediate food insecurity issue for families who rely on that program without yet having a plan. And they did get the free and reduced lunch program going for all families, but it was sort of that initial, if this happens, we're going to see an immediate problem. So what can we kind of do to prepare for that?
You're teaching in this class, and you know a pandemic's coming, and you know that it's going to affect certain. Tell me a little about the free and reduced lunch program.
So the free and reduced lunch program is the program across all Brookline schools and many towns where students are able to get their breakfast and their lunch from school either for no cost or very low cost.
And I would imagine that if a student needed this to be at no cost, then that could be like their major meal for the day, right?
So some students, to varying degrees, they do rely on those meals. So to immediately, all of a sudden, not have them anymore without a plan, that we saw that as being a really big issue.
How many students are we talking about who are in this, or face food insecurity in Brookline?
Well, the number of students that face food insecurity is, it's a little tough for me to estimate. I do know that at the start of the pandemic, we were delivering food to 19 families. Over the course of the year, the number of families has increased to 48-ish, depending on the month, and sort of just who needs food at that time. The students that were immediately part of the program that I was working with are students that I know personally. So those families, it was very easy to contact them and make sure that we were able to get them some food and some supplies, especially once there were not, I guess, there were shortages in some ways, and certain items became harder to find for people. So we were able to sort of fill that need. So that was 19 families at first. Now that number has grown for these monthly food drives. However, the Brookline Food Pantry is a separate but another organization that is also working to fight food insecurity in Brookline, and they do an amazing job. I have partnered and worked with them a little bit as the food drives have gone on, and they have been supportive and have offered additional resources that they have to support the drives that I've been running. But their numbers have increased. They have a 400% increase in the number of families that they've been working with over the course of the pandemic.
Tell me about how this whole operation worked. So how did you get the food? How did you get the food to the kids? Mm-hmm. And how many people did this, like, what are we talking about, like, for volunteers? Mm-hmm. Like,
so the first thing that we did was to start collecting food in a smaller capacity. And this came from donations from teachers mostly. And for about a month before school closed, we just started storing some food that we were collecting around Brookline High School. So there were three of us. It was myself and Karen Kennedy and Paula Shea, and we were the first ones to kind of just start collecting it and storing it, putting it aside. I wrote an email to school staff and just said, well, at that point, I didn't say, we think school is going to close, even though that was the truth, but just said in the email that we were expecting some students to maybe need to quarantine because they were a contact to someone who had COVID-19, or if their families were impacted directly by COVID-19, we saw that there was a possible need for supplementing their food resources at home. So more teachers started to donate food just in these weeks leading up. And then as it got closer, we started to plan for the delivering because many families in Brookline do drive and others rely on public transportation. So having families all come to BHS to pick up the food would have been difficult, especially given work schedules and just the uncertainty of the time at that point. So the school was closed on a Thursday evening. Friday morning, we filled one of the Brookline High School vans and we drove around, and it was myself and Karen and Paula, and we drove around with a couple other volunteers, and we delivered the food to those 19 original families that we had just spoken with before and said, look, if this does happen, we're going to be there, and we will get you things that you need. So leading up to it as well, in conversations with our students in Brookline within the Excel program, we just kind of told them, we were up front with them, they were watching the news, they knew that there were schools starting to close out on the West Coast, and we said to them, this could be us very soon. So you have our contact information. You know that if something comes up, if you need something, you can get in touch with your teachers. That's the kind of program that it is, and that's what I mean when I say it's sort of a family feel in a much larger Brookline community. We have this sort of smaller community that's very close. So that Friday was the first day that we went and delivered food and Chromebooks to students that we knew would need those as well. So that we knew we'd be able to keep in touch with them. We knew they'd be able to check their email. We just wanted to be able to have contact with them depending on how things went. Nobody knew what we were in for, but I figured let's be prepared for anything. So that was the first day. Then there were, I think we did 3 or 4 more food drives that spring. So spring of 2020, we had outdoor, I called them drive-through food drives, so that everybody knew there's no contact. You're stopping on the sidewalk, taking your food out of your car, leaving it on the sidewalk, and then we'll come and get the food, organize it, and deliver it later that day. So that's what we did. And I've had so many volunteers. For the most part, it is teachers and school administrators that volunteer for the drives, and the deliveries are all school staff. Most people do come back multiple times. I've had, there were, I don't know if I should name them or not, but, I've had Jennifer Gerusi, Liz Brennan, Amanda Lehman. There are many, Paula Shea comes every single time. So there are staff members that have been in this with me since the beginning and have helped for hours collecting, organizing, dropping food off, carrying large boxes, filling cars so that other people can drop off. It's been pretty incredible to see the number of just BHS staff members that get involved. We've had many donations from school staff, many donations from parents. Around Thanksgiving, we were able to get at least 1 turkey to every single family on the list. Many of them also got hams or 2 turkeys or other Thanksgiving and holiday items that would help them out so they could still celebrate with their families and have a little bit of the traditions that they're used to. So it was incredible. I mean, we've delivered massive amounts of food to people and have done it all in one day so that we can collect dairy, eggs, meat, all of that, and can get it to families within hours of when we're collecting it.
We're not just talking about the Excel program, right? We're talking about all of Brookline.
Right. So since we started, we had some food drives last spring, and then over the summer, we took a break from food drives, and I partnered with a Brookline parent, Dara Kelly, who raised money through donations, and we were able to work with local businesses to deliver 1 meal a week for families that were takeout meals. So instead of the food drives, we took a break from that over the summer, and instead, 1 day a week, I would pick up the meals, and I had help. I had, my go-to people, Liz Brennan and Jennifer Gerusi, and other people that will, just drop everything to come and help out with these, and they would help me deliver once a week to all of these same families. So I think we had about 20 or 21 families at that point that we were delivering takeout meals to. So it was not as much food weekly, maybe it was weekly instead of monthly. So that was pretty incredible. But also it helped the families by giving them a night off from cooking, and they would have leftovers that they could save for the next day. But just to give them a break and a little sense of normalcy, that this would be, something that they could keep doing. They can still get dinner out with their families once in a while during the pandemic.
It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me how far ahead you were. How did you guys think that the foresight to think that this was going to be this escalating problem? If you hadn't done that, what would have life have been like for those families?
Well, I think if we hadn't done that, it would have been much more difficult to get this up and running, especially because we wouldn't have had the supplies immediately ready to deliver that day. We could have collected it, and we did collect a significant amount of food during the spring while school was closed. But I do think that because everything was so uncertain and nobody knew exactly what was going to happen, it would have been much more difficult to get people, like you said, out of the house. People were avoiding grocery stores, and all makes sense. That's what we needed to do at the time. It would have been much more difficult. I'm very glad that we did think of this. I don't know what it would have been like. I think, there would have been other BHS staff members right with me looking for ways, figuring out how we were going to help families that we knew were in need. And luckily the school meals program did get up and running, and that also helped. But I think, there was a period of time where the shelves were empty and people couldn't find milk and couldn't find toilet paper. So in those times we had stuff ready, but then we also soon figured out how we could collect more and we could keep this going, even though things were just so difficult and scary. And yeah.
What's the reaction to your efforts? What's that been like from people that you've helped?
I know they're very grateful. I don't know all of the people at this point. I haven't met all of the families because there's so many now and we get so many volunteers. I haven't even met all of them. So we went from, 3 of us doing all of the deliveries to now we have so many volunteers that a lot of times I don't even get out of the school to go and make the deliveries. So I'm there sort of organizing and collecting things. The best part of this entire process has really been just building that relationship with families. I think making sure that they know this entire year that I and Brookline High School and so many staff members are right there with them this entire time. And we'll do what we can. It's, for me, I think, I keep going back to, this was the most important work during the pandemic. The teaching and the Zoom lessons and all of that stuff, it happened and it was, different and weird and we figured it out, but really getting through this as a community and helping our families who might need a little bit more assistance during this time, that was the most important piece of it. So I know that they're grateful and they know that we are there and we'll help them no matter whatever we can do. And hopefully, going forward, we're gonna keep this up. So I think that's another important piece is that it's with all of their gratitude. And, I am also so grateful for the people that have donated, the parents that have donated massive amounts of food, the teachers, the time, the energy, all very grateful. And I know that this is really just the start of addressing a much larger problem, that the pandemic has made some of these social issues more apparent. And these food drives have made a dent during a crisis, but the problem still continues. And so, even though vaccines are coming out now and grocery stores are safer and things feel safer, the food insecurity issue doesn't just disappear. It was there before the pandemic, and if we don't continue to work on it, it will remain after the pandemic.
How do you feel You're quick to name all the other volunteers and everyone that came to help you in this incredible effort. But how do you feel knowing how many lives you touched, that nothing happens if someone doesn't make it happen? And you made it happen by getting these volunteers together, there's some great people you're the 10th person we've honored with the Social Justice Award. There's some pretty epic people on the list before you, and the votes are always close. There's always great people who are nominated. This year wasn't even close. It was almost everyone said that it has to be you. In fact, they would be mad if it wasn't you. So, I mean, how does it feel? I mean, the award's nothing, but that you helped all those people.
Right. I think the opportunity to help our Brookline families that have been in need during this time is the award. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak to the issue, and certainly appreciative of the award. And I think, this award is for a large group of people. Like you said, I am quick to name others, but I have had a lot of help. And I have, coworkers that have been in this since the beginning and have, been taking food to people's homes during a pandemic, and for my students that they might not even necessarily know. So I'd say it's the whole, I guess if you asked me last year, I never would have thought that this was the way that everything would kind of play out. I didn't expect such an incredible outcome. I really just anticipated that there would be a problem, and just tried to start something to address it. I feel like I should be naming all of the people that have been.
I think they know that you appreciate them. And I also think that there's a lot of parents and kids who can't wait for the pandemic to be over, and you're one of the first people that they're going to want to hug. Because you changed the pandemic for a lot of people. I don't think what's worse than food insecurity, water insecurity, air insecurity.
Right.
That's about as basic as you can get. Do you have any message for the young people? So we're honoring 106 this year, I think. Anything that you want to tell them?
Oh gosh. I think I would share with the young people and everyone. I don't think it's just exclusive to young people, but I think some of the greatest takeaways, there are so many lessons that were learned during the pandemic. And I think that the greatest takeaway for me and for everyone, and people do this. I know that teachers do this and school administrators do this, but just always working to anticipate the barriers that are going to be in the way for people and figuring out creative ways to help them overcome those barriers or to remove those barriers altogether. So with a crisis on the horizon, I think, I was able to, but with help, we were able to anticipate what the most immediate need was going to be and get a jump start on that. And so, I think that's what young people are already doing, and continuing that, and to keep that thought process at the forefront of all of the incredible work that young people are doing, that school staff are doing. So I think that's really huge. I also think that, and I mentioned this a little bit before, but this award and my work over the last year, I hope that it's viewed as a call to action rather than a problem that has been solved by someone or a group of people. I mentioned the Brookline Food Pantry. They do incredible work. Their work has increased exponentially during this time. And going forward, there is going to be even more of a partnership between the schools and the Brookline Food Pantry, and we're working on some projects with them. But they are feeding 800 families a week. So that is going to continue. That's only just beginning as an ongoing challenge that we need to address. So I think, as we're looking to some better times, I think it's important to keep those big life lessons from a global pandemic in mind as we move forward.
Hi, my name is Danielle Myers of ADW Video Productions and BrooklineHub.com. BrooklineHub.com is a 501c3 nonprofit online publication dedicated to community building through local reporting and events. 2 years ago, we screened a short film as part of this event that I had the privilege of working on. Brookline Facing Civil Rights was produced by our founder, Harvey Bravman. The film is about the experiences of African Americans who helped break the wall of segregation that existed in Brookline before the civil rights laws were passed in the 1960s. Last year, the film sold out the Coolidge Corner Theatre and included a panel discussion on inclusivity. You can stream the film and the discussion on BrooklineHub.com in exchange for a donation to the Brookline Community Foundation's Safety Net Fund. You can also stream Soul Witness, a film that features interviews with Brookline Holocaust survivors conducted 30 years ago, on soulwitness.org.